Hello Home Inspire, I'm Mark. Welcome to our Victorian terrace in Walthamstow with sustainable cross-laminated timber extension. Come in. So we bought this house in 2016. It'd been lived in by a priest family for 25 years. I think they hadn't done very much to it. As you can see, it's kind of very much traditional London Victorian terrace. We wanted to reimagine it, do something different. So we hired Gresford Architects with a brief to provide us with a kind of new, reimagined family home that blended the kind of old and new. And I think when you hire an architect, you always hope they're going to come up with a big idea. And we'll show you in a bit what the big idea is. So obviously this is the living room part of the house. We wanted to, again, combine old and new, so we reinstated the traditional Victorian sash windows. You know, I think it really adds to the kind of feeling of height and space in the room. But in terms of this theme of old and new, this is obviously very much the new. As you'll see when we get outside, there's a lot of black cladding on the back of the house. So we brought that into the living room. And one of the things I sort of obsessed a lot about was, how do you hide a TV? Quite a hard thing to hide. And the end, the kind of simple solution I came up with was just have a floating black TV in a black floating space, which actually works quite well. And at night, actually what's lovely is this kind of TV like just seems to float like a cinema screen. The other thing we have in here is this exposed concrete. In terms of the interiors of the house, very much the language is one of just pure architecture, if you like. So exposed brick, timber, concrete. And when my brother, who was the kind of main contractor, sort of came to me and said, do you want a concrete fireplace? It was an easy yes, and he set to task building this, which I think is rather beautiful. It's rather kind of tactile. I think it's a really strong feature of the living room that just takes it beyond that traditional Victorian period interior. So as you can see, we very much went for the kind of open plan through from the kind of, you know, what would have been old French doors here down to the side return into the kitchen. We've kept the wide oak flooring throughout. It's actually throughout the house. Again, in terms of palette of materials, we very much tried to keep one kind of consistent palette of materials and colours throughout. Having two young kids, having this open plan through to the kitchen, you know, is great because they can run in and out and all that kind of stuff. The only downside I would say is noise does travel backwards and forwards between the kitchen and the living space. At some point in the future, we may decide to reinstate some sort of glass partition here, just for kind of as the kids get older, just to create separate space. But the nice thing about this open plan is, you know, you'll be able to see through the front window all the way back out to the garden, but there definitely are kind of pros and cons. As you can see, we've got this steel here, which separates what's effectively the old house from the new house. Up here, you can see the exposed brickwork, which is very much where the old house stops. Okay, so just coming into the kitchen, this is very much a new building over 3 floors. Where the old outrigger was effectively the old brick wall was along here where this steel is to that corner there. So like a lot of these kind of side return extensions, we decided to build out, but the big idea was to demolish the old side return completely, put new building in this cross-laminated timber, which is amazing material, which, I mean, effectively it's solid wood. It's like plywood effectively, but around 7 inches thick. So the CLT was supplied and installed by a company called Construct CLT. They had to spend a lot of time modelling all of this before it was milled in the factory. It's not like when you're building with brick or breeze block, you can kind of just work set drawings and do it all on site. This all has to be modelled and built off-site. All those kind of big decisions need to be made in advance. Then when it came to the actual build, we had to close the road for a week. There was a big crane outside that came all the way from Austria. Basically had to crane these huge, large sections of CLT over into position, where there was a gang of men guiding everything into position and kind of screwing stuff together. The whole building went up in 4 days. It was like a barn raising. Great to watch, very exciting. The great thing about CLT, apart from the speed, obviously it's wood, which is a really nice material to live with. You don't need to finish off with any wet trades. There's no plastering, there's no decorating. It never has to be redecorated. It's got great eco credentials. Obviously breeze block is made out of cement, concrete, effectively concrete. It's got really good heat retaining qualities in the winter and the summer. It stays really cool, and it embeds a lot of carbon within the wood. So it's a really lovely material to live with. And when the architects from Gresford said to us, do you want to do a CLT extension? We just thought, why not? There's a big idea. I think there's only possibly one CLT extension in London. And we thought, yeah, we like that idea. Let's go with it. So yeah, just walking down into the kitchen. Another one of the architect's big ideas was this kind of void, we call it. It doesn't really serve any practical purpose apart from it's a bit of a folly, maybe, an old-fashioned architectural term. It just adds that feeling of space and scale. It's a bit of fun. And then moving into the sort of main heart of the kitchen, when we started looking at what would be an appropriate kitchen finish, there's one thing that kept coming back up in all the kind of image research I did was black, and the timber works really well as a combination. So we really decided to go for the black, and I just thought, let's have a big black island and low cupboards, no wall hung cupboards at all. We just wanted it sleek and minimal. And effectively here, the kitchen's in the island because we've got sink and hob here, so the whole kitchen's in the island. I always think it's, if you are doing a refurbishment and you can stretch just a little bit extra to kind of hand-built kitchen, you end up with, plywood drawers, solid joinery. Doesn't cost a whole bunch more, to be honest. Also means, in future, if anyone wanted to change anything about this kitchen, worktops come off, drawer fronts come off. This kitchen should last 30 or 40 years, but you could just change everything. Maybe the next owners of the house want a different look. So as we've already seen in the living room, we had that poured concrete fireplace. We've continued that theme in here, again, just trying to keep the materiality effectively the same, or from one palette throughout the house. So we poured this concrete shuttered wall here to cover up the old fireplace, which would have been lots of kind of crumbling brick and all that kind of stuff. And again, concrete flooring with underfloor heating. Again, it's the obvious choice to pair with the concrete theme in the house. So just coming outside, I want to talk about the exterior finish of the building. Obviously, we've got this CLT extension, so we very much had to think about what we're going to put on the outside. One option was what are called brick slips, effectively fake brick, but that didn't feel like a good solution to us because it's fake. We'd been visiting Hastings quite a lot where my sister lives, and they have these wonderful kind of black net houses there. So we very much took inspiration from that and came up with this idea of using charred timber. So it's basically timber that's been charred, and I think it gives a rather kind of pleasing finish. Obviously it's wood as well, which speaks to what building is. It's a wooden building. The sliding doors and actually all the windows in the house, including the sashes at the front, are global doors and windows. Yeah, they did a really good job. They're really nice. We didn't want bifolds. Heard too many stories about bifolds kind of going wrong and sort of having maintenance issues, and actually we think these are a little bit more elegant anyway, just sliding backwards and forwards. And as you kind of come away from the building, you can see really how that sort of a black charred finish is taken all the way up through to all the stories of the building. So in effect, the back of the building becomes, it's like 4 different volumes. There's this kind of triangular one here. There's I don't know what you call that shape there. Then there's another ensuite bathroom, and then there's the dormer bedrooms. Once we'd finished all the work in the house, the next project was doing the garden. So in the summer 2020, COVID summer, we sort of started thinking about the garden, and I basically taught myself how to use SketchUp and drew it all out, and this is what we ended up with. So we're north facing, so as having the patio area back there and the breakfast area by the house, we needed a patio area that would get sun in the afternoon. Pergola for a little bit of shade. When the wisteria comes over the top, that will give us even more shade, and a swing for the kids. We didn't want a big plastic thing, but we needed to have something in the garden for the kids, and that was the best looking thing we could come up with. So we're back inside again now. We're just in the hallway, just about to go up the stairs, but I just thought I'd show you this little detail. We needed a fire door here, so my brother, who was the contractor, came up with this idea, rather neat. Toilet door, fire door, then back to toilet door again. So one of the other kind of materials we've used very much in the house is plywood into for all the kind of joinery. Again, it seemed to go well with the CLT we've got in the kitchen and the back of the house. We needed to replace the Victorian stairs here because it was kind of shot to pieces. So we needed to come up with some kind of solution rather than replace the old traditional worn out banister and rail with a kind of fake version of it. We thought we'd do something different, so we came up with this kind of rather lovely plywood rail and finger grip. So we'll head upstairs now and I'll show you around. We're here at the top on the first floor landing. Again, you can see old building, new building, and then we're into the family bathroom here, where you've got lots of exposed CLT on show and CLT door, which is rather lovely. Then coming along here, we're looking down into the void again. And from here, we're going to move into the office stroke guest room in here, so follow me in. Again, this room very much has the CLT on show. When you're building with a material like CLT, you end up with the surfaces on show a lot of the time because you can't cut into it like with plasterwork and just paint over it or plaster over it. So as you can see, you've got electrical conduit. Again, it's that part of that architectural language of the workings being on show. Got the exposed brickwork again there, concrete behind the door, and this rather nice feature, this kind of the gables ceiling being exposed, which just gives a bit more kind of volume to the space. The house actually ended up getting featured in Grand Designs magazine, and in common with a lot of people who go through this kind of extended process of kind of renovation, we went through a lot of the kind of typical Grand Designs things as a family happened to us. We got married just after we bought the house. We had our first child here. Then we moved out into rented accommodation. Our second child was born in rented accommodation. We went over budget, moved back in, the house is incomplete. A lot of the things that happen in a typical episode of Grand Designs probably happened to us, but hopefully the result was worth it all. So we're back in the first floor landing, and we've got 2 more bedrooms on this floor. We've got my son's bedroom on the left there, and at the front we've got the master bedroom. So we're just in my son's room, pocket door, which obviously saves a lot of space. Come into the room itself, not an awful lot to say in here. Again, we've got exposed brick on show, the old fireplace. Some people take those fireplaces out and it does actually create a bit more space. We decided not to, in hindsight, maybe that would have been a good choice because, just create a bit more room, but it's certainly extra work, and also you lose that kind of original feature of the fireplace. Coming through here, what I rather like is that you get this really nice view down here of the exterior of the building. You can see the charred black timber, the roof lights in the kitchen, the lovely slate roof, the lead work. So just coming into the master bedroom, when we did the renovation extension, as well as the new CLT building, we very much took the rest of the house back to brick. And in fact, we even had to take out a lot of the internal walls. This wall, for example, would originally have been brick, but it was brick onto rafters, and it was very much causing the rafters to sag. And so we took out, a lot of these internal brick walls and replaced them with stud work, which makes the building kind of lighter, if you like. Recently, we've added these rather lovely plywood wardrobes. It took us a long time because plywood joinery, any sort of joinery, is hugely expensive, a particular big chunk of it like this. But our friend helped us come up with this, and effectively it's a good old-fashioned IKEA hack. So it's the famous IKEA PAX wardrobes on the inside, which are actually really good value and have loads of features like pull-out drawers and pull-out shoe racks and all that kind of stuff. So that's what it's all based on. But then Ollie built a timber frame for it all to kind of sit into, so it doesn't kind of wobble around. I'm going to head upstairs now, and I'll show you the loft conversion, where we've got another bedroom and another bathroom. Coming up to another half landing here, the family shower room here. Again, you can see the exposed CLT on the ceiling there, and we've got this roof light above us, which brings a lot of light down into this void. And then coming up the stairs onto the top floor of the house, we've got our laundry in there, washing machine and tumble dryer. And then we're coming into the loft attic bedroom. This is now our daughter's room. One of the things that the architect very much wanted us to do in here, obviously a lot of these attic rooms are very much defined by the shape of the roof, and you've got the old chimney stack there, and you've got the dormer ceiling. So the architect asked us to, or encouraged us rather, to have these kind of exposed beams here, which give a bit more feeling of space, because obviously you can pinch that little bit of extra space between where plasterboard would have finished and the true height of the ceiling, but also just gives another kind of point of interest to the room rather than just a kind of flat plastered ceiling. Coming over this way, got this nice big rectangular window, and again, really like the view out of here. You can see that whole new 3-floor extension from this angle here, which is rather nice, plus the view of the garden and the neighbourhood beyond. Coming around here, we've got a Barbie dream house. And obviously a Velux here. You can just about see the shard out the window, and a little bit of storage around here. And that's pretty much the house from top to bottom. looking around our house. I hope you enjoyed it. We're available for shoots. There'll be a link in the description below. If you want to stay here, we're also listed on Airbnb, particularly during holiday time, school holiday times when we go away. The house is often available. And if you want to follow us on Instagram, our handle is @themodernchalet_E17. Thanks very much. Bye.